Hi, Juliet. Thank you for having us over here. It's a lovely place. It's Jumeirah, old school. It looks like a little bungalow converted into like a learning center. Uh, so thank you for having us here. But before we jump into that, I'd like to learn a little bit about you. How do you get into the whole education space, and what made you give so much of your life's work to this whole atmosphere?
I have an answer that might sound like cliche because of my children. I'm becoming a mother in 2023 in my first daughter. Um, and that's the same year ChatGPT was born. And I think, the world has changed in the last 2 years more than the last 20 years. And it has changed more in the last 20 years than the last 200 years. So we're accelerating changes. And I want to look at, in many classrooms today, we're still training our children on memorization and compliance. So if we believe the future is different, and as a technologist, I built my career, my first part of my profession in venture investing and technology. Um, and I deeply believe the future is going to be so different. Why are we teaching our children for the past? So I think I start from, profound sense of respect for the industry, for education, um, and also very deep concern for where things are, and the gap between the reality and what I wish for my children.
Got it. So, I mean, very interesting. I don't speak to many people who've come from venture capital into education. So, any specific instances or learnings from your past experience that like kind of spills over into your education business, or a sort of a learning or a skill that you honed during your venture capital days that you want to be culture at your learning center.
Yeah, I think, the one thread that holds everything congruent is really what we believe the future holds. As a venture capitalist, we're constantly making hypotheses, testing experiments about what the future would look like and how that translates into your investment positions today. And as a educator for the next generation, you're effectively doing the same. I wish for the same speed of change in education versus venture capital. And I think there are a lot of opportunities for us to experiment because the cost of experimenting has dramatically dropped because of AI. So I do think a lot of the skills, patterns of thinking, the questions I ask myself are the same across venture capital and technology and education today.
Yeah, so a lot is changing with AI, and I totally agree with you. But let me flip this question around a little bit for you. What do you think will not change in the classroom?
I think there are definitely constants that will never change. And in fact, these are the tenets we're building for our academy, our business. I think characters will not change. AI is actually, showing all of us a future of returning to humanity. Um, Two of us, we're the generation of deep specialization. Go deep on one thing, and your life is about being a part of something bigger. And we study for it, we get a job because of it. I think that's gonna change. I think now for our children, my children are 2.5 and 6 and 4 months old. For our children is no longer about what they do, is about who they are. Who they are fundamentally. Do they have empathy? Can they express themselves? Can they think logically? And really, can they adapt to very fast changes? So I think those are the constants that will never change, regardless of how industries, career, future evolves. And that's what I want to emphasize in the early years, because once we get this right, The children are confident. They can think you can think clearly, express clearly, and they have empathy. Everything just compounds on top of that.
Got it. So anyone, like, if I had to walk in as a parent into NOVAMinds, what should I expect and why should I register?
If you're a parent who, like me, lose your sleep, what the future looks like for a child, you should join us. I think we're really trying to. I'm a parent. All my team members are parents, and we're coming to build this not as just another center that to make our children keep up in the class, but we want our children to become future leaders that lead us into the future. So we're not trying to build just another center, to grow future workers instead of leaders.
Got it. I mean, coming from venture capital, highly demanding career into, the classroom as well, highly demanding, just like you mentioned, because of the speed of change. How do you balance, motherhood, parenting, and like setting up centers so aggressively, evolving curriculum? Like, in my head is already so much happening. So how do you like approach it and go through it?
I think I've given up on balancing a long time ago. And not to mention now I have one toddler, one newborn, and a new business. I think it's that I become very clear about my non-negotiables and build everything else around it. So health, family, a space to think. And I protect those religiously and fit everything else, around it. I've also learned that growth doesn't just mean filling up your calendar. It means you are actually intentionally building something that lasts. So in a way, I've become less busy as a startup. But I think that really gives me the force to center. And every time I have questions, doubts, these are the grounding forces.
Got it. No, I mean, that's lovely. I mean, if there's one piece of advice you would have to give any woman on the brink of starting up or contemplating starting up, what would that be?
Women would think too much. I think if there's one thing I would say is clarity comes from passion, not from overthinking. And just do it.
Got it. And I just want to double click into this because it's such an interesting answer. Like you said, you created these safe spaces for like your health, for your think time, often overlooked because you want to prioritize something else, like there's a task burning on your task list. Um, Walk me through how do you create that balance, right? Like if there's something that's burning today, does that get pushed over to tomorrow? Or just to understand, how do you take those calculated decisions and still grow?
Well, you have to put out fires. You can't let something burning stay burning. So like every day there will still be fires to put out. But other than that, I look at my daily priorities and reschedule relentlessly. So if something that has been on the calendar for months and I'm supposed to do it today, however, it doesn't align with my priority for that week, I'll move it. So every day I do that, every week I do that, every month I do that. And I become a little bit unapologetic in doing that, which is different compared to at the start of my career, I'll say. But I think that really it's more respectful if you think about it, because you're more intentional going into that meeting. You're not just sitting in for the hour because you allocate it on your calendar. So every meeting has to make a difference today.
You mentioned all your team members are also parents, which is super interesting. And I firmly believe that, you're as good as your team, or like you can go as far as you individually. You can go fast individually, but you can go far with the team.
Yes.
So tell me about putting the founding team together. Who's in there? Why are they there? What's your framework to grow the team?
Yeah. So I have a really wonderful team who are parents who care about education, who care about future a lot. They come from all walks of life. I think the one thing that holds everyone together, and it's the culture I'm really keen to build, is the culture of learning, the culture of curiosity. Um, we can't really, pride ourselves being the frontier of education unless we ourselves are really hungry learners ourselves. So whoever we bring onto this journey has to be ready to be challenged, has to be ready to refresh your thinking, has to be ready to learn new skills. So everyone, regardless what they do today, a designer, I'm forcing them to use AI every day. The person could be admin or my executive assistant. They have to train to use AI to be better at what they do. I think that learning or the habit of learning is really interesting for everyone involved. And they're not just doing this as a job. They actually see the fun of acquiring and mastering this new superpower. And I hope this journey can be transformative and can really change their life.
Yeah, I'm going to ask for some personal advice out. How do you check for this skill? Like, how do you check for, I'd say, curiosity or the willingness to take on these challenges when you're hiring someone?
I think ask questions and see if they can feel the onion with you. So, a lot of us are trained to give the correct answer as part of our education, unfortunately enough. And most of us actually, when we are fresh out of school, we don't know how to give layers to the same question because you don't have the experience, because you really haven't thought about from a first principles point of view, taking that as a problem to solve. If there's a question, there's an answer. That's it. But going into the new age, I think the ability that's really part of us is really to understand why certain things are in a certain way and why there is only one answer to one question. So of the programs we curate, and these are all award-winning programs from Singapore, from New York City, and from Hong Kong. I think there are many commonalities, but one thing all of the programs emphasize is there's no single correct answer. Every child is born a wonder, and every child has their unique voice and their own genius. So finding that confidence to challenge the question, finding that confidence to ask why, is not something we just, for our children's alone, we actually want to have them have that quality ourselves. So we, as part of the interview and even the first part of, working together, we constantly ask questions, constantly ask why. And as a small business today, you have the fortune of challenging all your predecessors, because this is the first time your business is going to look so different from even the giants before you, because the new superpowers you have. So we ask ourselves that question every day, and to rethink business logic, to rethink workflow, to rethink what fundamentally makes a difference.
Yeah. So obviously, like, I think you're emphasizing on like how fast things are changing. What does like NOVAMind look like in 5 or 10 years from today?
Oh, I think I'll have a different answer every month. Today I'm just in this very joyous place, and I want NOVAMind to look like a Disneyland of learning. And when child steps into it, they don't think about, chairs and tables and whiteboards and associate that with learning. They will associate, stories. They will associate solving puzzles. They will associate experiments with learning and lots of wonder. So when they step into the center, physical center or virtual center, they step into this magical land where they discover their superpower.
I love speaking of VCs for one reason, because like they can take a dreamy scenario, and somehow piece out a future to make it happen, right? So I love the whole Disneyland analogy you're going with. But when it comes to thinking about like a VC and growing at breakneck speed, how do you balance that, right? Like your vision of creating a Disneyland of learning, but a structured path to growth. How do you think of that?
Um, I think every day we're making decisions, and the decisions will lead you to what you're putting. So decisions, the choices you make, I should define who you are, what you want to build, instead of the outcome. So instead of the moving very fast towards end goal, which is clear and high out there, that's like everyone dreams about. That's where you're going. Often the reality becomes clearer as you're making your choices. So it doesn't really bother me too much that we are here and where we want to go is here. As long as I know the team, myself, and everyone in the team are in every step of the way making the right decisions, protecting the belief we have for education, the rest will fall into place.
And one final question before I head into rapid fire: why are you starting at like from the Middle East? Why is this your choice of starting point?
Yeah, so UAE is such an interesting market. I see the biggest diversity here compared to anywhere else. And people who choose to move for whatever reason and live here in UAE and raise their family here are truly global citizens. They're here to embrace the diversity. They're here to embrace, the speed of change. The Dubai has changed so much in the last, whatever time frame you put it, it has changed so much. So for the generation that's been attracted here are truly global citizens who are ready for experiments about the future.
Nice.
So I think this is a really interesting test ground in a way, because we have the perfect audience. We have the parents who think, for me, who think like me. So let's see what this takes us. I'm really excited about this market.
Awesome. Okay, Julia, this is my favorite part. I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions, and you're just going to hit me with the immediate thoughts, right? So if your younger self was watching you today, what would you tell her?
It doesn't matter what you do. The important thing is who you're becoming.
Nice. And one part of running your business which you wish was simpler at the beginning?
Letting go of ego.
Wow. And the most underrated skill for women founders?
Holding on to long-term vision in short-term chaos.
Wow. And one word that would describe your leadership style?
Architect.
Oh, wow. And what are you currently reading or watching?
There is a book by Dan Wang about how China is engineering the world.
Nice. And what's the biggest risk you've taken in your life that you think has paid off?
Becoming a mom. But I've gotten so much from my child.
Yeah.
My children, I'll say.
And one failure you wouldn't be afraid to talk about?
So many. Yeah, there are just so many to choose from. I think I'm really bad as people manager in general. So one failure I had when I was scaling my last business was like 4,000 people and the $1 billion revenue business was I came up with a list of values for the company, 9 values, and push it out to the entire company. And a month later, nobody remembered anything. So that was a really wake-up call that values can't live as empty words. You have to live it. So it doesn't matter how wonderful they sound, as long as it's detached from what people talk about on a daily basis, it doesn't have any value.
I understand. Yeah. And what's your biggest motivator? What's the meta reason you're doing all of this?
to build something that lasts.
Right. I think those were my questions. Thank you for this. This was so nice.
Thank you.